Another day in the life of the King. All hail. Welcome back to the FTFL Weekly Update. It is I, Brett Sieber, the King of the FTFL, and of course, the host of the FTFL Weekly Update, coming to you now after Week 6 is in the books. Gonna take my glasses, take my precious crown, set that down. 6 weeks in, 7 weeks to go. After next week, we are officially at the halfway point of the regular season. And boy, oh boy, you better start winning now, because the playoffs will be here, with or without you, before you know it. Speaking of winning, we now have 2 teams at 5-1, both atop their respective divisions. This week, as far as people trying to win, we had 7 of the 10 teams score more than 90 points. This is the most points I've seen in a week scored in a long time, maybe forever. I did not get a chance to go actually back and look at the history, but boy, oh boy, there were points all over the place. Aside from the points, there was an oddity in the waiver wire this week. Adam Thielen got himself a 3-day break, got handed a pink slip, and 3 days later was called on back. Kind of like he got sent down to the practice squad. It didn't necessarily hurt Thielen any. It did cost Hagan a buck. And speaking of Hagan, the Jimmy situation just continues to grow and get bigger by the day. 4 weeks have come and went. 1 month since I dropped the wrong Jimmy, and 4 weeks have come and went since you last tasted victory. Boy, oh boy, how that situation continues to haunt. Lastly, before we get to the games, I don't know if people caught this, I'm sure you did, but we have a brand new team in the FTFL. Bazinga no longer. It is now the Pit of Misery. Pit of Misery, dilly dilly. Let's be honest. What king doesn't have a cup like this? All hail! All right, on to the games. First up, the people of Middle Spunk Creek at 3-2, taking on the Pack Attack, also at 3-2. This was the tightest game of the week. Both fighting to go 2 games over 500 to avoid dropping to the dreaded 500 mark. It is Eric at 95.5 who beats Adam with 91 points. Adam had 5 people in double figures. Antonio Brown, 24. Cameron Brate, 13. Kareem Hunt, 8.5 points. The first 3 weeks of the season, that dude was averaging 20-plus points a week. Now, let's be honest, that's a bit unsustainable. Although, if I'm going to pay a first and a second for this dude, and then was it a second the year after that? I need a little bit more sustainability than I'm getting, because the last 3 weeks, he has scored 10 points or less a week. This week, Chris Hogan, who doesn't even come close to being any sort of relation to the man, the myth, the legend behind the name, the Hulkamaniacs, Hulk Hogan. Hogan had a half point. Boy, we'll get more to him later. Would have been nice had he pulled his weight. If you're Eric, everybody above 5.5 points except Martavis. Does he want to be traded, Bryant? Of course, was looking forward to having him back this year. He's back, and he hasn't done much. Gronk and Fitz both had 19. Jarvis Landry tagged 14 to the board in his best week to date. Jay Ajayi, speaking of best weeks, not his best, his second best with 8 points. When you're thinking, wow, first overall pick, one of the best running backs supposedly in the league, 8 points is the second best. That's not going to win you a lot of games. Then again, he's had contributions from other people. That is why he moves on to 4-2. Next up, Ryan Deesum, his 4-1 record, and those big old, saggy, shriveled up, old man titties and balls. Taking on Cramerica, who can't find a victory, even if he's looking for it on the waiver wire. Welcome back, Adam Thielen. At 2-3, gets smoked by 40 points, 107.5 to 67.5. If you're decent, Palmer had 22. Mark Ingram, say goodbye to Adrian Peterson. Say hello to more touches, 24.5 points. Christian McCaffrey added 15. Will Fuller the fifth, dilly dilly, added 15. Jordy Nelson, one of the low points this week, 7 points. And you have to wonder going forward, what does the Jordy Nelson situation look like? Only time will tell. If you're Cramerica, Brady, 16, and basically it all kind of stops there. Devontae Adams, 10.5. His running backs combined for 2 points. Terrell Pryor added 1.5 points. The vaunted Jacksonville defense that couldn't get it done despite 31 points last week only added, I'm sorry, I'm having a boa malfunction here, only added 4. Not a great week for Hagen, not a great month. Started the season hot, got all sorts of extra draft picks, looked like one of the better teams, even though you only had Terrell Pryor, and now it's starting to look like you only had Terrell Pryor. Game number 3, Mana, 3-time champ Mana, taking on the formerly known as Bazinga, now the Pit of Misery, Dilly Dilly. Mana at 2-3, Bazinga, sorry, the Pit of Misery, Dilly Dilly. At 1-4, Mana comes out the winner, moves on to 597 to 85.5. Deshaun Watson, holy smokes, has that dude been on fire off the waiver wire. Leonard Fournette continues to do Leonard Fournette type things. Speaking of the waiver wire, Jeff goes back, dips his toes in the waters, and pulls Adrian Peterson ashore. Now, is it just first-time beginner's luck, or is this going to be the deal for the next few weeks? 20 points for Adrian Peterson. A lot of points there. Jeff did have 4 players at 3 points and under. It didn't necessarily matter because Andy's team didn't quite do enough. Although they didn't have anybody under 3. He just didn't have the big guns that Jeff had. Le'Veon Bell, 19.5. Justin Tucker, 12. I think this is like the second week, maybe the third, where Justin Tucker has been Andy's second highest score. When your kicker is your second highest score, unless it's Greg Zierlein every week scoring 27, that's not the top story that you want to hear. Jordan Howard, 10.5. Another injury, Emmanuel Sanders goes down, won't play this week, might be ready after that, but boy, oh boy, the list of injuries continues to grow. I guess take Emmanuel Sanders and throw him in the Pit of Misery. Dilly Dilly. Now, speaking of Mana, 3-time champ Mana, there's been a lot of chatter. I know here on the update where I talk a lot about Browerville math, and it kind of is now spilled over, if you will, from the chalice of the king into the chat discussion. A lot of people wondering, what is Browerville math? What are they teaching? How do they go about counting in the great old town of Browerville? Well, to help us with that, we've got our correspondent on the ground. We're going to send it now to good old Bart in Browerville. Bart, take it away. Hey now, it's your friend Bart from Browerville. I'm sorry I'm not the most camera friendly today. I had a cat scratch my eye this morning, and old doctor said it's gonna be fine. Gonna take a few days to heal. Now I heard y'all's fixing for some counting help. In Browerville, we're pretty good at counting. We love to use our fingers and such. Then again, not a lot of us got many of them left after farming accident. Heck, JR, he blew a couple of fingers off last year deers hunting. I don't got a lot of times we're out in the fields trying to get that crop in, but you want to do some big time counting this weekend. We're all heading to town square where we take our shoes off and we sit in a circle, and then we can count for hours and hours, man. So y'all come back for that. And until then, just remember, in Browerville there's a saying, 2 + 2 equals the number of fingers on my right hand. We'll see you next time. Well, there you have it. I'm glad that mystery and conundrum has been solved. And thank goodness the number of fingers on my right hand. Solid. Bart, we'll come back to you again, hopefully in the future. With that, we're going to move on to game number 4. The Architect at 3-2, taking on Everything Must Go, the Radioactive Monkeys at 1-4. And speaking of Everything Must Go, I'm a little bit confused. Adam Saltmarsh, you made this grandiose statement about the whole team's for sale. Everything must go. We saw this amazing Labor Day car sales ad. And since then, nothing has gone. I'm not entirely sure you understand what a fire sale looks like. I'm not entirely sure you quite get the concept of everything must go. I know people have been offering you trades. You're not going to walk away with a sack full of draft picks. I'm sorry, Adam Swart ruined this for everybody when he went off and got Kareem Hunt. Maybe Adam Swart ruined it for himself. That's yet to be seen. No, not every running back is worth the first, a second, and like a second again the other year. Whatever that deal was. I don't remember anymore. If you're really serious about moving players, start moving players. Anyways, and if you could get your own players moving, maybe you'd have more than one victory. 90.5 points in most weeks is going to be a pretty solid score. Although we now have, this has become a bit of a theme, where week after week we are seeing teams score more than 90 points and lose, and that was the case this week against the Architect, who put up a healthy 113. Matt Stafford, 28 points. Golden Tate, 19.5, and the Lions defense chipped in 17. for a combined total of 62.5. That was half. Thanks, Bart and Browerville, for the math on that one. Half of 113. Ezekiel Elliott was on bye, so it didn't necessarily matter that his suspension was reinstated, only to then, of course, have it blocked again. I don't know if he's going to play going forward. DeMarco Murray might be sharing the ball more with Derrick Henry. Devontae Freeman is probably going to be fine in Atlanta. Elliott, personally, I hope the chump doesn't play. Take your spoon, turn it sideways, and you know what. But for now, it looks like he's back in, which is probably good news for the Architect, who moves on to 4-2, stays one game off the pace in the South Division. And lastly, but not leastly, that's right, the Hulkamaniacs, my team, your team, the king of the FTFL at 4-1, taking on Team Linkowitz in 2-3. Now, as we all know, a certain individual, a prominent NFL player, was hurt on Sunday. Now, I was in attendance at that game, and my phone lit up like the Christmas tree at Rockefeller Center on whatever night they light that sucker for the first time. And 2AT were the message. The message was, your season's over. The Packers season's over. You're finished. It's done. Done, 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 done. Now, I didn't hear from Eric. And why is that relevant? Do you actually, you know what? I did hear from Eric. And he wasn't overly happy, but he wasn't necessarily fatalist either. The rest of my friends that send me texts, I know you're all Viking fans. How do I know? Because you go straight to the, well, it's over at the first sign of any sort of resistance. Giving up, caving in, that is not the marks of a king. That is not the marks of a winning team. And that for sure is not the mark of a Green Bay Packers fan. No. So Aaron Rodgers goes down and everyone rejoices until you opened up your little fantasy football app, you scrolled down through the rosters, and then you saw it. The third highest score in the league this season, Carson Wentz, belongs to, that's right, the Hulkamaniacs. Just Wentz, baby. An old NFL owner, legendary Al Davis, often would go on record as saying, just Wentz, baby. And that's what we'll do. In the meantime, by the way, gone but not forgotten, shall hang here in the FTFL studios until he returns, which, by the way, might be on December 23rd against the Vikings. And boy, oh boy, wouldn't that be something. All right, well, the game itself, of course, Rodgers gets 0 points. Everyone says, I'm done. And then what do? Oh, the most kingly thing around, dilly. I go on to beat John Linkowitz. I not only beat him, I pummeled him into the ground, 106-75. Derrick Henry, Carlos Hyde, and Chris Thompson, my three running backs, combined for 47 points, throwing the 17.5 from Mike Evans, the 18 from the Baltimore defense. And oh, by the way, everything just seems dandy. If you're John, Kirk Cousins threw in 24. The Vikings defense got 15. Let's be honest, against the deer in the headlights, Brett Hundley, he will be better going forward. And the Packers will be just fine. Todd Gurley has slowed down a bit. That early season 4-week pace was just on fire. In the last few weeks, he has kind of slowed down that a bit. Bottom line, I'm still your king, 5-1. Get well soon, Aaron. We'll see you when you get back. Onwards, we're going to wrap this up. Stud of the week. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm nominating an entire team. And no, not one of you. None of you are stud worthy as a team. The Detroit Lions. 62.5 points from 3 Detroit Lions sources moved Matt and the Architect to 4-2, half of his 113. That's impressive. Detroit Lions stud of the week, the dud of the week. People among Middle Spunk Creek, you're next. Your boy Chris Hogan came into this week averaging 12 points a game. You lost by less than 5. He got you a half point. Chris Hogan, you are the dud of the week. For the decent update this week, I can't help but think that the Jimmy effect needs to keep being brought up. I know Sid would like us to let go of the Jimmy situation and just let it wither and die, but no. We'll keep bringing it up as long as it keeps affecting your team. Also, noteworthy, Sid, and I looked at the DSOM award here, and we didn't see this yet. People have picked somebody up and never played them. Fine. People have picked up players that couldn't play. Fine. I don't see anywhere where someone has dropped a player only to pick them back up again before the end of the week. 3 days, Adam Thielen had a little vacation, and now he's back. To me, you are all over the place floundering, dear sir. Decent worthy it was. The game's coming up for week 7. Big one. Atop the North Division, Hulkamaniacs, your king at 5-1, taking on the people of Middle Spunk Creek at 3-3. Ryan Deesum and his you-know-what in the you-know-where at 5-1 as well, taking on the Pack Attack. Top of the division games going to help either bring the standings closer together or slowly keep separating them apart. Beyond that, we have the Architect at 4-2 taking on the reeling Kramerica at 2-4. Mana, 3-time champ, Mana 3-3 taking on the Radioactive Monkeys at 1-5. It's the Pizza Bowl, everybody. And lastly, but I guess somewhat leastly, good old Team Linkowitz at 2-4, taking on the Pit of Misery at 1-5. The Pit of Misery, dilly. That does it for this week's edition of the FTFL Weekly Update. Enjoy your MEA break. Get outside, enjoy the weather, and don't forget, I'm your king, and that's not changing anytime soon. Dilly.